It's good to see everyone this morning. I want to thank you for your diligence in this time of change, that you keep showing up no matter who's here to share the message on Sunday morning. That's the nature of a healthy community, that you can receive the wisdom and truth principles from a variety of people rather than just the same one over and over and over again, like we did for a long time. So this is wonderful. I thank you for that. As I get closer to retirement, I find that I'm changing. Some attitudes in my head are changing. And I shouldn't be surprised. I actually know several ministers in our movement that actually moved away from our teaching after they retired, which was odd to me, really strange. And I'm not moving away from our teaching, but I'm seeing it with some different perspectives than before. For example, you know, when you leave the center's property, at least before we added our new exit driveway, the ramp that's further down, there's a little sign right at the end of the fence there that says, "Now go make the world a better place." And when I put that sign up there, when I had it made and put it up there, I said, that's going to inspire everybody to really get out there and make their lives work and touch a lot of lives and make a difference. Now I look at that sign and say, do I have to? Really? Haven't I done enough? And that's probably too much of a pendulum swing. But it brings to mind that this whole idea of the world being a better place isn't about us going out and being philanthropists. It's not about us working in soup kitchens. It's not about volunteering at the hospital. It's not about those kinds of things. It's about making your life a better place. About making the things that are happening in your consciousness and in your sphere of influence continually better. I don't think we can give up on that because none of us have got it all figured out. In fact, I would go so far as to say that I definitely have some work to do. And it's not time to give up on that. It's time to continue to hone and refine who I am for me and for my sake. Because no one else is going to fix me. No one else is going to make my life the life I want to live. And the same is true for you. Nobody but you can do it. Your partner can't do it. Your kids can't do it. Your parents can't do it. Nobody can do it but you. And I think that's one of the real beauties of this center, is that we come together to work on ourselves, and that this is a safe place to do it, where we can trust that nobody's going to jump on us. I remember once I was doing a men's gathering. I think we were actually in Utah, but it was from the group in Vegas. And we went up into the mountains and we did this thing. And there was a moment in that where I was very vulnerable and said some things that I probably had never said aloud about myself. And I found that men in that group attacked me for it. And it set this idea that I have to be careful what I tell people. And I'm not sure that's a healthy place to be. I think it's more important that I'm transparent about who I am and what's going on in my life, at least to a great degree. I'm not going to sit here and dwell on all the things that I'm not happy with about my life, but I want to be as reasonably transparent as I can. So what I bring to you today are 3 simple ideas that I'm working on, that are helping me move through this whole process of being who I want to be in my life so that my life is generally peaceful and working. You know, and nobody gets it all so that there's no challenges in life. But by God, we can live a life that is at least okay. And that's what I want to do now. So I want to present these 3 ideas to you and let you think about what works. Maybe some of them are just not an issue for you. But I'll bet there's something in there that every one of us could use to kind of help refine who we are so that we're moving through life in a graceful and poised way. So the first one is what I try often not to do. I'm going to tell you what not to do. I actually, it was Devon Embler who, when I gave a talk one time, not here, was actually at a different place that she was there. She thought, I thought we were supposed to move toward things, not away from. Well, sometimes you got to let something go to pick something up. So that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with a stop. Stop struggling. Stop making life hard. Now, life will tell you, our culture specifically, will tell you that life's a struggle, that things are hard. You got to work hard in life. You gotta deal with stuff. You know, we have, especially what's going on in our world, our country right now, lots of struggle with cultural ideas, struggle with politics, struggle, all this stuff that we got to look at, we got to think about, we got to make choices about. And all of it calls us to find something or someone that's wrong and be against them. Dr. Holmes said, don't do that. Dr. Holmes said, be for something and against nothing. That takes some work. That doesn't come natural to us. We're discerning beings. So we often overdo that and find something to be against. And when we do, guess what? We get to struggle. We get to find fault in them, which means we have to be on guard, that we have to defend ourselves, that we have to alienate ourselves from something. And when we do that, it makes our lives harder. Most of my struggles happen in the middle of the night. I get into these major arguments. The worst ones right now in my life are with doctors, because they put me on these drugs, and I don't feel good on these drugs. Yes, they do the thing that they're supposed to do. You know, my blood sugar is under control, my blood pressure is fine, but all of them have side effects. There's no such thing as a pharmaceutical that doesn't have side effects. And I get them all. So in the midst of that, the big one that is always there for me that I'm working on is fatigue. I just run out of energy. Halfway up the stairs. You know, I come in and Barbara looks at me and she says, what's wrong with you? Because I'm tired. And so in the middle of the night, I had this big argument with my urologist who gave me an injection that was supposed to last 6 months. It's been almost 10 months, and the effects of that drug are still in my system and still affecting my ability to function as a human being. So in the middle of the night, I have this come to Jesus talk with my urologist saying, don't ever do that to me again or I'm out of here forever. And the weird thing about these conversations in my head in the middle of the night is that I keep having them over and over and over and over, as though something was going to change. Nothing changes. I just get into a deeper hole of struggle, and nothing changes. And if I do that, if I tell my urologist I won't ever come to him again, my primary doctor is going to get really ticked at me because he thinks, and he's right, that I need to have those things looked at, even though that prostate situation I had where there was a malignancy in my prostate, it seems to be gone. The other effects of that drug still apparently are having a toll on me. And he knows that somebody's got to monitor that and that a urologist is the right guy to do it. Okay, all right. Oh, so I have to work that out in my head so that I don't keep going to war, because it doesn't help. It doesn't help to fight and argue and be difficult with it. And I'm not suggesting you have to give in to everything in the world, but you have to be open to possibility. Well, you don't have to. You can be as closed-minded as you want. I have to be if I want the life that I want. I can't go to war with these people. I have to have careful and thoughtful conversations about things and choose not from that moment and that challenge, but from a greater understanding. There's a great teacher that had something to say about struggle that I wanted to share with you this morning. His name's Gary Zukav. And he says all struggle collapses when you withdraw your energy from it. It cannot continue without your intention to manipulate and control. When your intention is to observe your inner process, everything else changes. Struggling becomes uninteresting when you change your intention from winning to learning about yourself. That is good advice. And totally in principle with the science of mind. That our job is not to struggle and find fault and have difficulties. Our job is to enjoy our lives as fully as we can. And the only way I know how to do that is to let go of the struggle. So what I'm learning, my little way of dealing with this is when I'm finding myself in that struggle and I'm clear enough to say this, I ask myself a question. I ask myself, what are you getting out of this thing you're doing right now? What are you getting that's going to help you, that's going to make your life better? Nothing. Which is a wake-up call to remember that what my life is really about is enjoying my life and being in the presence of the woman I love and to get to do things that are fulfilling and delightful, not to struggle. And yes, there are some things in my life where my body doesn't do everything I want it to do. Okay, let's work on that. Let's have conversations that help improve that. But don't go into battle, John. Don't go into battle. It's not going to help you. It's not going to make your life better. There's a better way to do this. And it's never, ever, ever through struggle. So that's the first one. That's the first idea I want you to consider. And yes, there's a thing about trying to remove something that's tough. Because if you remove something from your consciousness, there would be a void there. And what's going to fill the void? Well, the easiest thing to fill the void is the thing you just got rid of. And people do that. I do process work with people and tell them, okay, we're going to let go of this thing that you're doing, but you can't stop there. Because if you stop there, inside of hours or at the most days, you're going to be doing it again because it was the natural fit. It's like a puzzle piece. It just fits so perfectly right in that thing, even though it's not helping. So what do? You got to do something else. So that takes us to the second idea, which is to respond to life rather than react to it. Now, we all know this. It's like, this is not news, yet we often don't do it. We often react to things. Reacting is visceral. It just happens. It happens spontaneously. The way it works is that your mind is a series of filters. And everything you observe, words, written word, spoken word, actions of others, whatever condition you're experiencing in your life, when you observe it, immediately it runs through every filter in your mind. And something will catch it. And when it catches it, you'll go, oh, well, that's just not right. And when you do, you're hooked, because chances are, now I would imagine that introverts are better at this than me because I'm an extrovert. Introverts can process a bit inside, not me. Not me, it comes out, boom. Well, that's wrong, that's stupid. I hate that. And when those words come out, now you got to deal with it. Now you've said it and you've heard it. And that's the way it is with extroverts. When sometimes the first time it occurs to you, what you said was when you hear it. And when it does, now you're stuck with that, and you're in the middle of the conflict again. So what can you do differently? There's things to do. There's a way to handle this that'll help. But us extroverts, and even introverts, because you may not be doing it on the outside, but I trust me, you're doing it on the inside. You've come to some judgment, some button's been pushed, and you're having a reaction, even if you're not speaking yet. And that's as real on the inside as it is on the outside. In fact, the inside stuff is what's really important. So let me share my thought on this is a quote that doesn't have an author, but I love it. It really works for me. The wise respond, the foolish react. The wise think and then act. The foolish act and then regret. And that's sort of how it works. That's sort of what happens. You go, Oh, I did that. I said that. There was a show that, will I be able to remember the actress's name? She was the woman on Seinfeld. Julia Louis-Dreyfus did another show after that, not Veep, before that. She did another comedy. That was it. Yeah, old, new Christine, something like that. Anyway, there was a scene on one of those shows that I fell off the couch. It was so funny. Somebody did something, and she was reacting to it on an email, and then she hit send and realized she didn't send it to the friend she wanted to gossip with. She sent it back to the person that did it, and she realized it, and she ran over the wall and pulled the cord out of the wall like she could stop the email. It doesn't work. That's not how it happens. As soon as it's in your mind, it's there, it's a thing. As soon as you think it, it's a thing. You've reacted already. So what can you do? This one takes more work than anything I know. And that's take a breath before you get engaged. Something's not the way you want it to be. Something's not really working here. But before you get totally hooked to the point where you have to backtrack or you have to spend a lot of time cleaning up, take a breath. Take a breath. And that takes incredible self-control to take that breath. But if you do, you give your mind a chance to unhook from that thing and find something in principle that would work better. And the thing you would find is a response. That's what you want, is to respond with wisdom and grace and poise. And realize that these principles we teach here really do work. You really can apply them. And when you do, the outcome is so much easier. God, life gets so much, infinitely easier when you don't engage in that thing that you're going to have to back off of. Some of you are really good at this. Some of you, I see, and I'm looking around the room, and the one that's come to mind, I'm going to say your name here, RJ, is RJ. And Jeff and I have both talked about how RJ has been in situations with us where we had a reaction, and RJ says, no, this is wonderful. Everything's fine. And I think, how do you do that? Because he'll take the breath. He'll take the moment to do that, to say, really, everything's fine here. He's embodied the principles we teach so completely in his life that he doesn't get caught in those things. At least I don't see it. If it's going on, I'm not seeing. I'm not trying to deify you beyond the way we are all the presence of the divine, RJ, but you're really good at that. And you just came to mind in that moment that when we will please just give it a moment, when we're watching the news or we're having a conversation or we're with a coworker and something isn't the way we'd like it, to breathe through it before we say anything. I was over there in the social hall this morning, not being much more reactive than responsive. And the trick is that I always think I'm right. And you know what? Even if I am right, it's not a good reason to react. Even if what I'm saying is something that is the way it's going to work out, and I know, that doesn't really help me keep my relationships, while all of the beloveds around here, clean and healthy, if I tell them what they just did was wrong. And truly, what's more important, to be right or to be loved? You can actually do them both if you just keep your mouth shut for a minute. But that's the work, is to give yourself a moment to respond to the situation and don't get caught up in reacting to it quickly in a way that you would regret. So that's number 2. The last one you've heard 1,000 times, and I hope you hear it 1,000 more in this room. Happiness is not something to seek. It is not something to receive. And some might argue that point. They might say, well, I like to watch comedy so that I laugh and am happy. That's momentary, and that's not really happiness. That's laughing at something peculiar most of the time. And yeah, it's funny, but it isn't really that joyous space that I'm talking about. I'm talking about how do you live your life? From what emotional state do you live? Where's your home base? Because really, emotions are simply energy, and happiness is one of those levels of energy. It's not that there's different kinds of energy, it's that there's different vibratory states of energy. And happiness is a state, and it's a pretty light one. The heavy ones are anger and fear and anything that holds you down. Grief is anger, even though there's times when it's important to be in grief. You don't stay there. The trick here is, can you bring as your home base the idea of being happy so that that's where you address life, from that state of happiness? And what I've discovered in my life is that when I do that, I tend to be surrounded by people who are also happy. No, not always. There's sometimes that there's somebody that's either sad or upset for some reason. And I know how to go down to the place where they are energetically. But my job then is to kind of bring them back up. You know, the best moments of my life, the absolute best moments, are where I can get Barbara to laugh. There's something in me that happens when I say something silly and she laughs. It just fills me with this sense of joy. And she's not giving me the joy. It's my joy. I'm creating that level of energy in my life, in my body. But somehow I love connecting it to her. And it's not that I can't do it anytime, anywhere, because I can, and so can you. But the point here is that happiness really is a choice. And when we're called out of that state of happiness into some other emotional state, our job then is to, as quickly and clearly as we can, to return to our happiness, because we'll make the best choices there. We'll have the best life there. We'll be surrounded by people that are of like mind and like emotional state. We've had people come in this room on a Sunday morning and sit down for a minute and then go back and walk out. And when they manage to get back here again, they tell me, I came in the room and they was just too happy in here. I just couldn't do that. They're not used to it. And we are generally happy people. And the fact that they came back again meant they knew there was something to get by being in the room. But they need a little more time to prepare themselves for all that happiness. Because happiness is kind of addictive. It can be overwhelming to someone that's not used to it. So I invite you in your life to be happy and do what the Maharishi says. The purpose of life is the expansion of happiness. So no matter what your purpose is for being on this planet, let this be a piece of it. That whoever you are includes happiness. My purpose is to reveal and release the power of the divine presence in everyone I meet and in everything I do. How could I do that without being happy? There's so much stuff you can't do if you're happy. You can't blame. You can't find fault. You can't be angry. You can't be depressed. There's so many things you can't do when you're happy. And they're all wonderful things to let go of. So be happy. Just be happy. Choose happiness no matter what. It's okay. I think when we've done memorial services here, when we've celebrated someone's life, the best ones always include the stories about the goofy things that person did, the way they were eccentric or the way they touched hearts and did things. And most of that brings us to laughter and remembering that person. What a great way to be remembered. They were happy. They were happy, that which means that all the people around them were happy too. So the point of these ideas come down to one thing. I'm inviting you this morning to make your life a better place. But you can't make your life a better place without making the world a better place. Because every time you do these things, you're adding to the wholeness of the human experience. And the more of us that are able to do this with our lives, the better the world will be for all of us, for people you'll never know. Because all of this gets passed on. I have good news that our numbers on our website have gone back up. We had a lull for several months where they went down, but they're moving back up now. So that means more and more people around the world are experiencing what we are sharing here. And that can only make the world a better place. And it only happens because of you. It doesn't just happen because of who's standing on this stage. It happens because of you. We are all in this together, and our work, though individually directed, is collectively valued. So let that be true for you. In your life, stop struggling. Learn how to respond rather than react, and be happy. And truly, your life and the world will be a better place. I love you very much. Thank you.